Before we get into today's stories, if you're new, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, as it really helps me out. And if you are already subscribed, welcome back and thank you for subscribing. Okay, now with that out of the way, let's get into today's video. This incident happened a few years ago, but I think about it every time I drive. I was 19 and in my second year of college. I was running a little behind for a literature test, and I was in a hurry to leave the house. Now I live about 10 minutes from the college, so it wasn't that big of a deal. At the end of my road is a 4-lane intersection, nothing real dangerous, but you need to pay attention to what you are doing. I get to the intersection, and there is no one coming, so I pull out. Now, imagine my surprise when a red pickup truck flies past me, pulls in front of me, and stops suddenly. Not just brakes, but stops in the road and begins to get out of his truck yelling all sorts of profanities at me while holding something I could not make out what it was in his hand. This has never happened to me before, so I have no idea what to do at this point. I punch the accelerator and take off into the other lane. The red truck is behind me, following me as close as he can. Then he switches lanes and is next to me, weaving like he is going to crash into me. I brake, and then he brakes for me to catch up to him. This happens over and over until I slide into the college parking lot. I leave my car on and run into the security office, shaking and crying uncontrollably. It took over an hour for me to calm down and tell my dad and the police officer what had happened. My dad took me home, trying to comfort me with soft words and trying to explain he was just some crazy driver. Well, later that day, my mom decided to take me out shopping to make me feel better, and yes, my mom was driving. While on our way, I look out the window and see the crazy red truck guy next to us staring at me. I began freaking out and crying hysterically, pointing at him. My mom yelled at me to write down his license plate number as he drives past us. We drove home and called the police officer back and told him about what had just happened. About 30 minutes later, he came to the house and began talking to us about the situation. What he had found out from the license plate number, the crazy red truck guy had a drug problem and had been involved in 2 other cases just like mine. Now, the only difference was the 2 other girls went missing and have never been found. The officer tries to reassure me that I was safe and that I was a smart girl by driving to the security station at college. He went on talking, but my mind raced as he talked. What might have happened to me, what could have happened to me. I started thinking, am I really safe? I mean, he is still out there. Is he following me? Waiting to get me? Like those other girls? But I can't think that way anymore. He can't be following me, right? He can't be. So crazy redneck red truck guy. Let's not meet ever. Ever again. So this is one of the creepiest and angriest moments of my entire life. Last April, my girlfriend and I decided to go for a little drive around the hills and mountains of eastern Kentucky at night. I know, bad decision, but we were really bored. For reference, I'm a 6'3", 175-pound male. My girlfriend is 5 foot, even, and tiny. However, we have both been firefighters for almost 5 years now, so we are both strong and don't normally get frightened. So anyway, we decided to go for a little drive at night. We were driving around this back road through the mountains in my little white Mercury Sable because I'm a badass with a grandma car, obviously. And we come around the bend, and in the middle of the road is a school bus. Like, straight up the middle of the road. Its back tires were completely flat, and the back windows were broken out. and so was one taillight. Deciding that that was too crazy to stick around for long, I drove around it. All of the windows on the left side of the bus were completely shattered, with glass all over the road. At this point, my girlfriend has a death grip on my arm, and we are both freaking out. As I get around, I look in the mirror and slammed on the gas. In my rear view mirror, on the hood of the bus, was a man smiling at us with a gun in his lap as we drove by. I'm too terrified to speak, so I just motion to the mirror to my girlfriend, and she screams, and we take off. This was the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky, on a mountain road. We hadn't passed a house in miles. It was eerie, but I thought it was over. Just some weirdo. I was wrong. We get back onto a main road and go to a gas station to get a drink and figure out what the fuck just happened. Obviously, I refused to let my girlfriend go anywhere by herself at the gas station because it was poorly lit and we were still freaked out. We go inside, get our drinks, and come back out. Sitting on the hood of my car was the same man that was sitting on the school bus, except without the gun. So, like I said, I'm a fairly big guy, and I really don't like when people scare my girlfriend. So I walked up to him and told him, in not so nice terms, to get off of my car. He smiled at me, and while still looking at me, smiling, said to my girlfriend, "I think you would do that earlier." My girlfriend, being from New Jersey, absolutely went off on this guy, screaming about how she's a Yankee and I'm more attractive than he would ever hope to be. This guy is still smiling at me, and he smells like dip, and he's got bits of dip in his teeth. When she finishes, he still stares at me and smiles and says, "Hey honey, come home, I got property." At this point, I'm furious, and I grab the guy and throw him off of my car. That's when he moves between me and my girlfriend, which is not okay. He turns. That's when he starts muttering, "I had to get rid of that last Yankee first, yes, but what 2-3 years I had so many that would fucking work." I'm seriously angry by this point. As he started talking about my girlfriend's body, now he'd like to put things in it. I can feel my anger rising. Then I hear my girlfriend start crying, so I shoved him out of the way and grabbed her, opened the car door for her, locked it, jumped in my side, and turned the car on. This guy again sat on the hood of my car and started smiling again, and I could see him say, "Yes, I need the hatchet to spade that ugly Yankee." That's when I threw it in reverse and drove away. He fell off the front of the car onto the ground but never stopped smiling. We drove home so terrified, in silence. To this day, we have never seen him since. Don't drive through the mountains of Kentucky at night, and if you do, and see a school bus, just drive away quickly. Don't look back. And creepy redneck guy, let's not meet again. It was the night of prom, and me and 5 other girls, all around 17 or 18 years old, pretty much all black, had left the venue and were driving around aimlessly, hoping to catch up to a party to go to. Every place we went to ended up being a bust, or getting busted by cops. So we were headed to go hang out with some friends around 2 or 3 a.m. It's important to note that none of us were inebriated in any manner. So by this time of the night, the roads are almost completely empty. We live in a rural, suburban, northern Virginia, and it's incredibly dark as the car had broken high beams. The driver, Key, made a turn down a road and, seeing as it was incredibly dark, briefly drove in the wrong lane. No divider. It only lasts around 5 seconds or so, and absolutely nobody on the street, so she just calmly corrected herself. Right as she makes it to the correct lane, a car about 50 to 100 feet behind us turns on its headlights and lays on the horn. It seems like this guy appeared to come out of nowhere. I found it incredibly strange he didn't have his headlights on, as it was a new moon and almost completely dark, so she waves her hand out the window and says sorry. But the guy is just not having it. He immediately sped up, riding our tail and honking almost constantly, to the point where we were around 60 and a 30 zone. He was in a huge black truck waving a Confederate flag out of the back of it, and we were in a tiny green Kia, so we were understandably terrified. He ended up actually ramming our bumper a few times, although not enough to dent the car or move it. Thankfully, we were debating what to do, whether we should call the cops or not, when Key takes a few sharp turns and ends up losing the guy to stop in a parking lot. We wait super quietly under the shady tree, ready to drive off or call the police, or both, for a few minutes. One of my friends suddenly notices a truck parked a few parking lots away, separated by a few trees. We could see him through the trees, but we were hoping that he couldn't see us. I don't have the best eyesight, but even I could see him jump out of the car. This guy was massive, wide, and tall, holding something in his arms and waving it around. Another friend with more gun experience than I points out it looks like it could have been a shotgun. We watch for a few seconds, paralyzed in fear, as he yells something along the lines of, "Y'all motherfuckers come out here right now." After we all wisened up, Key put the car in drive and sped out of the parking lot as fast as she could. We were visibly shaken and immediately went home, so that we could all safely freak the fuck out, making sure to see if he was following us the whole way. Hey, racist redneck rampager, let's not meet again. It was summer, during the last family vacation I had. I'm 22 now, and still get chills thinking about the incident. I have muscular dystrophy, and have used a wheelchair all of my life. When I was 18 and my cousin was 14, I asked her to accompany me through a flea market in the South. We had met up with family in an hour or so, and commenced the rest of our trip. Lame as the flea market was, it wasn't an exciting environment, albeit bustling with non-locals. Soon I was loaded down with items in generic-looking bags from different memorabilia stores and candy shops throughout the market. My cousin had an armful too, and kept either falling behind me or walking too far in front to look at things that caught her eye. I wasn't really worried about her safety, as she looked to be more around my age, and she was an athlete and had taken karate, so I did my best to keep up. It was extremely hot, and the market had AC, but it was huge and stuffy, and pretty soon we were ready to leave. Family members were due back to the meeting spot soon, so we waited in an area near the back of the market. Kiosks lined the back of the wall of the place, and often had doors leading back into little rooms, which I assume was where they kept things stocked. We found a bench and sat on it and ate some ice cream. Then the grimiest looking redneck sat behind us. I had my chair pulled up next to the bench, and she sat in the middle of the bench. The freak, who had been 40 or older, sat in between us. He had no sleeves and stringy brown hair, with a gross chin strap thing hanging off of his chin. He does the chill guy thing of leaning back and putting his hand near my chair and completely over my cousin's 14-year-old shoulder. He didn't say anything for like 30 seconds. I was too freaked out to talk to my cousin from across this man. Then he got up quickly and asked us if we wanted tattoos. When we reacted with strange expressions, he corrected himself. He actually meant temporary ones. I finally spotted his shop, nestled into a backlit hole in the wall with nasty designs sprawled all over the walls. There was no sign or business name on the lot anywhere, and even if I wanted a temporary tattoo, I wouldn't let him give her one or me one. We said no thank you, and began gathering our stuff as if we were ready to leave. Like I said earlier, this was near the back and almost in a corner, and not much traffic was coming through the area, and it was literally shady. Being hyper aware of safety in my surroundings, I immediately start getting nauseous and start rolling away. I figured cousin would follow, but he was still talking to her. I rolled back a bit and asked her to hand me something off of my chair and told her to come the fuck on. We giggled out of nervousness to each other, and as we were leaving, he playfully came off scary as hell, grabbed the handlebars of my wheelchair and said, "You know, I could beat you, honey." I wasn't turned around towards him, so I pretended I didn't hear, and we escaped into the crowd to go wait for my family somewhere else. Because of my disability, I am very petite and thin, and obviously do not look like an able-bodied 18 to 22-year-old, coupled with the fact that the guy touched me and seemed intent on getting us back into the little room that only he appeared to work at. Why did a 40-plus-year-old man try to solicit a 14-year-old girl, much less a disabled one? It was fucking scary, and did not help my anxiety about public places